Hey there, I'm Daniel, and today we're going to fix the low coolant issue on my son's S500 Mercedes. Let's get to it. So we're having a few issues here. We've had this problem for a few months now, and we just kept ignoring it and filling in water. The problem is with filling in water from the faucet, it has lots of minerals, and those minerals can lead to things that depend on the circulation of the system, like your radiator, like other stuff, the valve that opens when you turn on the heater, to get stuck or to get rusty. So this is something that we pushed and pushed, but we can't ignore it any longer. So this is the coolant reservoir. We kept refilling it with regular water, so all that stuff that's in there is now contaminated, and it's not good for the system. You can see here where I tried to put some gasket maker just to make sure it seals it, which it didn't. And it was just a temporary patch until we could actually fix it. So we're gonna change the tank and flush out the coolant. So let's get to it. So while this is emptying out, we're going to remove the overflow tank. Let's get to it. So as you can see, the little plastic piece from the housing broke off on the inside and got stuck in here. And after playing for a while, I just had to cut it. Is it ideal? No, but I have enough slack where it can still go onto the new tank. So we should be good. If you don't have enough space for whatever reason, if you have to resort to this, you're just gonna have to buy a whole new piece. But I think that little bit that we cut off, which is maybe 3/4 of an inch, should be more than okay. So let's start taking apart the tank. right, that was easy as pie. Here's the old one. So it was very brittle. Things just popped right off. The tank itself may have a crack, and that's why we were losing coolant. So let's take a look and see what the Amazon ferry brought us. All right, so it does look the same. It does bring this hose, but it doesn't bring the cap. Technically we're done now. We're just gonna fill it up and take it for a test drive, but we're gonna flush it out. So we're gonna throw in a few gallons of distilled water. When you get distilled water, you have to make sure it's not the baby water. There's baby water you can buy at the supermarket, but they add minerals to it. We don't want minerals in there. We don't want nothing to cake up in there, no calcium, no nothing that can also create rust in the radiator. Otherwise, you'll be looking at a new radiator a few years down the road. So we're going to just fill up water, take it for a little run, let the car heat up, also turn on the heater so it flushes everything out from the heater core, and then we'll come back. Now that we ran the car for a few minutes, it never went over 80 degrees Celsius, and looks like we bled it fine. You pinch the top of the hose until you start feeling some resistance and some water coming through after the car heats up. Now we're gonna flush the system out one more time. This will get everything else out. Be careful, 80 degrees, that's very, very hot. It will burn you. I'll wear gloves. I'll unscrew it with a screwdriver, as you will see, just so I don't touch the water. So let's get it flushed out. You got here a new plug. You notice I didn't replace it earlier because we were gonna do a flush. With this one, on this next refill, we're going to replace the plug. So let's talk about coolant a little bit. Technically, you can run your car on just pure water all summer long, and you shouldn't have any issues. The reason for it being is the water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Your tank is pressurized. Most systems are about 11 psi. That pressure raises your boiling point, where you could actually run your car at 100 degrees Celsius and the water is still not boiling. Now, coolant, of course, will help that. Water also has a much better way of removing heat with stuff that it gets in contact with. So with coolant, that deteriorates a little bit, but manufacturers have figured out how to put detergents in it to bring that back again. So that being said, would I run my car without coolant? Absolutely not. The coolant is here to protect you from a corrosion that could happen in there. There's anti-corrosive properties in it. The manual says you run 50-50. Now 50-50 is so you can run it anywhere in Canada or Alaska or down in South America or on the equator. Now here, I think I'm gonna run about 30% coolant because it's just not necessary. Right now, the country's going through a winter storm. I'm sweating. We just don't ever get below 0 degrees Celsius, maybe once in a while for a few hours, but that's besides the point. So if I plan on going to New York in the middle of winter, I better top off some coolant. Now, because that's also not going to happen, I'll be fine with a 30-70 mixture. I believe that's good for me. For you, you have to make your own decision on that. I would recommend you follow the manual and put 50-50 in it. In really cold climates, sometimes it's recommended to just go complete antifreeze, because if you leave your car overnight out at minus 50, minus 60 degrees Celsius, your coolant will probably freeze. So when you look up in certain vehicles with certain manufacturers, they will actually recommend 100% coolant for the extreme winter months. And I'm talking about antifreeze when I say coolant. So let's go ahead and mix it up. I like to pre-mix it rather than pour it straight into the tank. And then we're gonna top off the antifreeze level or the coolant level. So let's get to it. So here we go. If you don't need the overflow tank replaced, just skip the step. Just do the rest of the procedure. Now, we're gonna pay attention about a tank of gas just to make sure there's no overheating going on, but I just took it for a test drive and it's right at 80 degrees Celsius. And you're supposed to be anywhere between 80 and 90, even 100 is acceptable, I heard. But 80 is the sweet spot and it's the middle of the scale. That's where we wanna be. Now, we had a little issue where the heater wouldn't come on. Now we're in Florida, so it doesn't really matter. But we do get a few days here and there where it gets cold and you need to use the heater. The heater worked barely, just enough to get us by. If we were any further north, it would have been a problem and we were gonna take care of it. And it was actually planned to be one of the videos for later on this year, just so I know my son has heat when he needs it. I fired up the heater. I don't remember last time the air came out that hot. I've been driving around, it's 80 degrees outside right now, and I'm driving around with the heater on full blast. So it got really hot. Another bonus for that having salted, I'm imagining maybe there was some scale buildup. There's a couple of valves, and by flushing it out, the scale just, either loosened, disappeared, or the antifreeze, this right here, acts as a lubricant as well. So maybe that just gave it what it needed to operate again. So we're gonna test it. We're gonna turn on the heater, turn on the cooling, and see if that actually stays consistently like that. But I'm surprised. I didn't think it's gonna come out at that high of a temperature. So that's an added bonus. If you're having that problem, that might be maybe your first thing to look into. Just flush out your coolant and get some new coolant liquid in there. Now, there's lots of brands out there. I like to go with Mercedes stuff. The link is in the description. The little plug on the bottom, link is in the description for that as well. If you live somewhere, I would say Georgia to maybe New York, I would go 50-50. If you live further north than that, maybe even a higher percentage of antifreeze might be recommended. Again, check out your manual. Most people don't read their manuals anymore today. All the information that I'm talking about is actually in there. So now we're just gonna go ahead and assemble the bottom pan, and that's it, we're done. Until next time, take care.